I was almost $100,000 in debt. I had just fired a business coach, a manager, and I had just had someone quit because she moved overseas. And I thought, well, I guess I'll just fold, or maybe I'll take a break. But instead, I joined the 500K offer, seeing that I already had those things and all I had to do was just leverage them. And all I had to do was just talk about them. And the sales just poured in. I did all that, in a year. If you had told me last year that was what was going to happen, probably would have been like, absolutely, that is not even possible, but it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Jewel CEO of the Month series. This is where we get to take you behind the scenes and highlight incredible entrepreneurs that we are working with and we are seeing up close and firsthand that not only are they kind of demonstrating excellence in their technical areas as an entrepreneur, but they're also really demonstrating excellence as CEOs and leaders. And so this is a great series to be able to learn and get exposed to fabulous women owners, and then also really get a taste of how they are bossing up, becoming excellent CEOs in their companies. And I'm so pumped to introduce you to Megan Beams, who is based in Toronto, and her company is Beams CST. That's Beams Craniosacral Therapy. Her focus is working with infants. But I would love, Megan, for you to tell us, what is your woman-owned story? Like, what are the origins of your business? How did you become a woman owner in the first place?
That takes me back to when I was very young. I think I have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I It started with being literally a paper delivery person, right? I because I knew that I wanted to make money, and I knew that in order to get things, my family, we were not very well off, right? We lived in public housing. We went to an inner city school. My mom was a single mom of 3 kids and she worked part-time, right? So for me, I needed to make money. I wanted to have a cordless phone at my house. So,
Yes.
I was like, well, if I want a cordless phone, I got to work for it. So, with my paper route money, I bought our family our very first cordless phone. And yeah,
I love that story. That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. And then it went on to being a babysitter. So, I think I've been an entrepreneur since childhood.
Yeah. And how did you tell us how you started the business that you run today?
So with Beam CST, been uh I had already been practicing craniosacral therapy for a couple of years, and I had 2 very young kids. They were 6 months old when I started craniosacral. So my youngest was 6 months, my oldest was 2, and uh, my business, even with these 2 little babies, was like booming,
Mm,
right? During the pandemic, people, wanted craniosacral therapy for their babies, and I could not keep up with the demand.
yep.
So I decided I would start training people in order to expand my staff, right? Because in order for me to bring on more families and really help more people, I needed to have someone trained by me who I trusted.
Yeah.
And with that, I built a curriculum. And my very first, my very first time running the program, I had 8 people with a goal of 8 people. So I filled it the very first time I ran it,
Amazing.
and that tells me that there's a demand.
So you
Yeah.
went from offering your first workshop, like program, teaching other practitioners who work with patients
Mhm.
how to do craniosacral therapy for infants. Since then, how long did it take you from that very first one to developing what is now like a 5 level certification? How long did that take you?
That took me roughly 3.5 years.
Mm,
So for the first 2 levels, it took me 6 months. I think each one took about 6 months to develop and
yep.
implement. So it's around 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs, particularly service-based entrepreneurs who are limited by the amount of sessions that they can personally deliver, just like you were, they may be
Yes.
thinking of developing what we call a 500K offer. And that's where we first met in the 500K offer program. What advice would you give your younger self about developing the kind of robust programming that you have in place now? Like, what would be the number one piece of advice you'd give a younger version of yourself or one of those entrepreneurs who want to develop a 500K offer, but are maybe delaying, procrastinating, feeling overwhelmed by it?
So, what I would say to my younger self is take more time.
Mm,
Don't apply as much pressure to get it out there as I did originally. Um, and if I am going to do it in that amount of time, have way more support
mm,
behind me because I was doing the majority of it myself. I had someone who was helping me write the curriculum, but I was doing the I was doing the graphics. I was recording video, then I was editing the video, then I was uploading it onto the website, and that was way too much work for myself. So if you want to do it quickly, make sure that you have a very good support system. People who are going to do those little tasks that actually take a very long time.
yeah. Now I want to talk to you about like your other job, which is being the CEO of your company. And one of
Yeah.
the things that we're celebrating, and I think as women leaders, we need to see it to be it. We hear about, leaders who are doing a great job growing their companies, who are accomplishing these results. But I think for women entrepreneurs, it's really important that we see women that we can relate to. So one of the things that we're celebrating for you. So I want to share some of these statistics because they're really phenomenal, and you're a humble person, so
Thank you.
good. So 38% top line year over year growth, a 64.62% reduction in labor costs, and a 211.11% bottom line improvement, right? So this is significant because what this means, from as me looking outside at so many businesses is this is sort of what happens when a leader starts to go from being the technician, like a teacher of
Yes.
craniosacral therapists, to being that and also being a really effective CEO who is stepping into her power to scale her company. When you hear those results, how do you feel?
Uh, I feel like I did all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? What? Really?
Yeah.
In a year?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I also I also feel like I had no idea that that was attainable
Mm,
last year. If you had told me last year that was what was going to
yeah.
happen, um, I would probably would have been like, absolutely, that is not even
Yeah.
possible, but it is.
Why is that? Why is
Um,
that? Because I'm fascinated by that, that moment as an entrepreneur where you can't see what's possible for you, even
mhm.
though ultimately that's what you're going to create. So take us back to that time a year ago. What was it why didn't you think those kinds of results were possible? What was going on?
So a year ago, I was probably in like the fiery depths of wherever you would imagine.
Yeah.
I was almost $100,000 in debt, both personally and uh, business. And I had just fired a business coach. I had just fired a manager, and I had just had someone quit because she moved overseas. And so essentially, I had one person left who was, helping out with the business. And I thought, well, it's I guess I'll just fold, or maybe I'll take a break. Maybe I'll just cancel everything for this year and ride it out and see what happens. But instead, I joined Jewel Business Foundations. The 500K
Yep.
offer. Yes,
Yes.
the 500K offer. And in that was, there was the implementing, deciding what my rabbit, deer, and elephant were,
Yeah.
and seeing that I already had those things and all I had to do was just leverage them,
Yes.
and all I had to do was just talk about them, and the sales just poured in. And because I had already had, quite a few systems implemented before from that previous manager who I fired, I was able to ride that for about 3 months. But then it was
Yeah.
unsustainable because I had such an increase of student, people I was onboarding. Um, that I couldn't manage it.
Yeah.
It was too much from just me and my one new VA who was barely with me for any time.
Yeah.
So implementing other things, actually through Dual Business Foundations, which was making sure that whoever was working in the business had tasks that they were responsible for, but that I didn't have to constantly tell them what to do.
Yes.
And that took a lot off of me because before I was the type of person who was like, "Oh, this thing's coming up. Make sure you're doing that. Oh, this thing's coming up. Make sure you're doing
Yeah.
that." And so with the person I have now, she's still with me, which is great. She's a forward looker,
Yeah.
and she was just like, "Hey Meg, this is what's coming up and I'm going to do it."
Mm. Yeah.
Amazing. Then I also onboarded a new teacher, which meant that I was teaching less. I was responsible for fewer students. I was responsible now for the higher level students, the ones who, when I was training them, they understood what I was
Yeah.
saying.
Well, this is really cool. So, and I wanted to kind of highlight something because I think this is the difference in terms of, in my profession, which is business coaching, the difference between working with somebody who's very early in a business, like they're just in startup, versus working with established business owners. And so, like you had an established business, you had, for you, it was basically more clients than you could deal with, at the
Yes.
beginning. And so, we worked together first in the 500K offer. It's called Jewel Business Foundation. And then over the course of the last year, we've been working together in the Jewel Business Accelerator. And that's a program that it's really the world's #1 program supporting women entrepreneurs, very specifically who are scaling from 200K to 2 million plus. And the biggest
Yes.
difference there, like what you kind of talked about, is that often when you're working with startup entrepreneurs, there's a ton of experimentation and it's like kind of all new. When you're working with scaling entrepreneurs, it's that you actually want your coaching to leave no trace. Just kind of like camping in the wilderness. What you want to do is go in and look at this business and identify what are the strong points, what's working really well. How do we make sure that this leader is directing the energies to amplify that? You know what I mean? We gently remove the things that are not working well. It's about good to great, and so in many ways it is like you kind of want your coaching to leave no trace because what you want is to amplify the existing underlying excellence of the business that's there, because only 5% of women
Absolutely.
entrepreneurs scale are doing over 200K. It's a small elite group, and so you're not dealing with people who don't know what they're doing. You're dealing with established successful entrepreneurs in their own right and partnering with them to help them get even better. It's a very fun discipline, you know? I think.
It's been fun being in the
Yeah.
program. So earlier, when I said I had just fired a business coach, that program was scaling from 10K to
Yep.
100K. And when I said, okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. I'm making 20 grand a month now, so I'm over that. How do I get to 30? Um, and the advice that was given was journal it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want you to sit down and journal how you think you could get there. And I said, that's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for strategy. I'm asking for
Yeah.
systems. I'm asking for guidance in that kind of way. And when I joined the
Accelerator. Yeah.
accelerator, honestly, it was like that. See, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted. This is what I needed
Mhm.
to know my numbers. This is what I needed to know how to talk to people to grow those numbers. This is what I needed in order to talk to my team and and have them be held accountable to their own responsibilities. And this is how I need to be able to hire the right people
Yeah.
to be on the
Yeah.
team. And I didn't have that in the other
Yeah.
programs,
Well, that's great.
which was for solopreneurs,
Yeah.
essentially, not CEOs.
Yes. And it's, and most of the market is that. Like most that, and so that's great, but it's like when it's that's not you, there's very specific supports that you need. So I want to wrap up by really getting a sense for you, you know, um actually sort of two things. One is when you look to the future of Beam's CST, like to the degree that you can, and obviously there's a big part of being an entrepreneur, which is we're very much dealing with the business as it is. But what do you see for the future of your business? What's your dream?
My dream is that we teach in like all
Mhm.
continents, in person. So right now we teach in North America and the UK. So, I want to teach on all continents, either me or my team of teachers.
Oh my gosh.
Um, that's my dream.
I guess the final question that I'd ask you is for an entrepreneur who is looking at, they're in your shoes, they're doing 20K plus per month. They maybe have outgrown programs that were effective when they were in startup, but they're past that now. Do you have any advice or what would you share with them about your experience in the Dual Business Accelerator?
Do the work.
Yes.
Take the time to do the work. Don't put it off for too long. Um, because the what you get back from putting in the work is so uh rewarding.
Mm.
And and the 30 30 30, where you actually get like, is real. It's real.
30% growth, 30%
Yes.
profitability, 30% open time. That's our model. Yeah.
And for me, it's the 30% open time. Great. 30% growth. Great.
Got that.
For
Yeah.
me, I am looking, gotta have
Yeah.
that. Sure, for
30%
sure.
profits. Got
I
that.
am looking for the 30% open
Mm,
time. And it's possible to get there. I was like, ugh,
yeah.
maybe next year I'll get
Yeah.
there. But it's becoming more and more
How
possible.
is your life different today?
How is my life different
Mhm.
today? Well, I was a little burnt out as of last week,
Yes.
because I did just onboard someone and I was still, feeling like I was doing way too many things in the
Yep.
business. Literally, as of this week, my life is different from 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
in that I took yesterday off. Yesterday's Monday. I had a 20-minute meeting in the morning, and I had the rest of the day to hang out with my kids. We went to the library,
That's
like we went for a bike ride, and I didn't feel guilty.
mm,
I didn't feel like there was somewhere I needed to be that was not with my children. Um, and that felt really good.
yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience, for just kind of taking us behind the scenes a little bit. Like for anyone who watches your Instagram and your content, they'll see you are all often taking people behind the scenes of your life as an infant craniosacral therapist and teacher of infant craniosacral therapists. But I appreciate you taking us a little bit behind the scenes of your life as a CEO, as a Jewel CEO. We really appreciate you, love having you in the program. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I guess the best place for
Thank you for
people
having
to
me.
find you, is it Instagram, would you say?
Yeah, that's the only place I
Listen.
am. I'm a
Yeah,
millennial.
that's right. BeamCST on Instagram. We'll make sure that there's a link in the description to this video. Thank you so much, Megan.
Beauty. Thank you.